Loudspeaker Studios.
Fort Collins, Colorado's Plasma Canvas has had quite the journey to get to this point. Having survived lineup changes, releasing their label debut during the uncertainty of a global pandemic, and personal hardships, the self-proclaimed loudest, gayest band in the world unleashes their full-length debut LP DUSK on February 17th, 2023 on Side 1 Dummy Records. The band is celebrating the release of the album with a number of concerts in Colorado coming up, including stops in Denver, Colorado Springs, and right here in Fort Collins. Welcome to ColoRadio Spotlight. I am Chris, and I am joined today by frontwoman, guitarist, and all-around badass Adrienne Rae of Plasma Canvas. Adrienne, how's it going?
It's great. That's a lot to live up to. I'll try not to disappoint. Hi, everybody.
I don't think you could, so it's going to be all right. So you have a new album coming out in just a couple of days here, probably the day people hear this. But what do you want to say with Dusk as something that you've been building to for the last couple of years?
It's honest.
Yeah.
People will think what they want. I'm sure that there are the people who have been around for years that know us for the riffs, that might not be as stoked about it. I don't know. I try not to assume that I know what anybody's going to think about it, but I guess I'm just preparing my skin, Mm-hmm. It's a very vulnerable record. There's a lot in it that I have been wanting to share, but just haven't felt strong enough to. And I think that there's a little bit more of an entry point into this record that than was more accessible on previous releases. A lot of it was me and Evelyn joining hands and flipping off the world because we needed to get to know each other a little bit better. And also because those things that we were writing about were very important and are still very important, like trans rights, queer love, things like that. It's just, there's more to a human being than your stances on things. And with this record, I wanted to just create an experience and say something personal, say something really honest and meaningful. And, to be honest, surviving a pandemic had a lot to do with it, because KILLERMAJESTIC was like an hors d'oeuvre that we had people eating for 2.5 years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And this is a meal, It's KILLERMAJESTIC was 17 minutes long, had 5 tracks. They all sounded pretty different, and we just wanted them to be the catchiest, tightest, punchiest things that we had to serve to the world and say, please like us. And Dusk is not that. Dusk is a different thing, and I think the people who understand it will appreciate it. And I think the people who understand what we actually do and what we actually are about and have always been about, they'll understand it and appreciate it. They might not, necessarily enjoy every single part of it, but that's what I'm hoping for. Mm-hmm. I'm hoping that there will be people who don't like this part or that part, because I don't want to please every bit of an audience, right? Because everybody likes different things.
Yeah.
And I would like to maybe put stuff out there that challenges people a little bit, even our hardcore fans. I just kind of want to challenge what they think of us and what we are and what we do, because I'm always interested in reclaiming that. That's kind of what this record is. It's like a reclamation of this art.
Mm-hmm. Well, and the best art does tend to challenge us, right? Does tend to sort of, knock on our perceptions and say, hey, what do you think about this? Or have you tried looking at it this way? Because if art's not pushing you to do that, then in some ways it's, I don't want to say less meaningful, but it doesn't hit the audience in the same kind of way if
right.
It doesn't challenge them to some degree, right?
Yeah, that's absolutely true. They're some of my favorite records were both hated by the masses when they came out and then grew into cult classics like Shape of Punk to Come by Refused. All the hardcore kids hated that record when it came out, and now, like it's revered as like being a huge influence on countless bands. I also have experiences with records, and I know a great record and one that I really connect with by how much I hate it. When I initially listened to it.
Sure.
Because, there were some records that I listened to. Danger Days, The True Lives of the Fabulous Killjoys by My Chemical Romance is a really good example of that. Because, I was like, what are these, like, synth drums and, like, synth parts doing on my punk rock record? Like, where is the New Jersey Misfits worship band? Where have they gone? And then it grew on me, because I listened to it more than once and realized that it was just the same people doing what they wanted to do. And that idea opened things up for me, because if someone else can do what they want to do, even if it's not immediately popular with everyone that has been following them, then I can do whatever I want to do. And that was sort of that sort of thinking is what led me to start Plasma Canvas. Was like I've been through projects where I've got to run my lyrics by a few other people and make sure that we as a band stand for this, and it led to a lot of really shitty lyrics. It led to a lot of like really boring, just vague storytelling. Wasn't much of a story to tell at that point.
Because it was sanitized, right?
Right, yeah, because it had to be approved.
Right.
It had to be like agreed upon, and if somebody had a thought about it, I wasn't, I would defend it, because I wrote the fucking song, but just implicitly knowing when I was writing things that I would have to make sure that this was okay with everyone first.
Sure.
Was a hindrance. And I wanted to totally remove that. And that was why I started Plasma Canvas. And I took these songs that I had written at the time, and I just wanted to document them somehow as just like my truth, because, as a bummer of a thing that this is, like as a trans woman, my life expectancy is not as high as everybody else's. And, I was like, I don't know how much time I've got on this earth, and I would like to make my mark, because, if shitty punk bands that have been playing the same crap for like 30 years are still, able to draw a crowd, I can do something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why not you, right?
Right. Yeah. Why not me? And I think that's the message I want everybody to take from what we do is like, why not you? And, it was intended to just be like a way to be more honest and to be more vulnerable, and just to make better art. I knew that the only way that it was going to be sustainable was if I could just tell my truth and see what happened after that. And it's gone over a lot of evolutions through the years. From being like a solo project with like just a bunch of weird songs that didn't make sense but kind of worked together, to like solidifying as a two-piece and staying that way for like 5 years, to, expanding the band and like just trying all these different layers out. It's something that I've always been conscious of and always wanted to keep in mind, was like not to be boxed in, because only being able to like play one guitar part and sing one thing at a time, and like, it was hard. It was a creative box, and I just decided like I'm not going to live in that box.
Yeah, no reason to,
Yeah.
right? Your creativity needs to be able to breathe, needs to be able to expand, and you can't do that when you have such kind of limiting parameters around it.
Yeah, and and that's like just within the project, and that's not even saying that for metalheads and punks, groups of people that couldn't give a shit less about what anybody thinks. They sure got a lot of fucking rules.
Right.
They sure got a lot of rules. So
well, and especially these days in this sort of like with the advent of so much, the quote unquote cancel culture of the internet as it is. Like, you have to double check and triple check that everything you say is right and that everything is completely unassailable by, bad faith actors. And it's this whole sort of pressure that you have to put yourself under as someone who creates art and puts that out into the world of like, how are people going to take this? Am I saying this the right way? Is it gonna piss off this person? Is it gonna piss off this person? That does sort of like make the world that you can inhabit with your art smaller and smaller and smaller, and has got to be stifling, I got to imagine.
Yeah, it's weird, like I try not to let myself think about it. I think there's, it's a double-edged sword, right? Because like we've done a lot of growing as a society, like, some would say growing backwards, but on the other hand, as much as there are like hugely like terrifying threats to, trans lives right now, especially trans people of color, Black trans women have like the highest murder rate of like any population. And it's just, that really freaks me out. But there's also, not to get real bleak, but I lost my train of thought.
That's all right. That's all right. Let's listen to something from the album. This is the first single off of Dusk, which is out this Friday on Side One Dummy. This is Blistered World. ColoRadio Spotlight here on loudspeaker. I am talking with Adrienne Rae Ash of the band Plasma Canvas, whose new album Dusk comes out February 17th on Side One Dummy. We just heard Blistered World, and this was the very first single from the album, and it begins with the line, It's a blistered world, but I won't let it kill me. You've been open in the past about your personal struggles. How have those struggles informed this album?
Well, you know, personal struggles like that's kind of what the album is. You know, it's a processing of that. But speaking on Blistered World specifically, I remembered what I was going to tell you a second ago, which is like, despite how bleak everything is, backlash is a sign of progress. Right? Like, we're only getting so much hatred because we're getting so much more recognition and inclusion in society and culture, and like, people are starting to, whether like cringily, liberally, in the most like Democratic Party kind of way.
Right.
Even if it's lip service or, just even the inclusion of like a trans character in a thing, there's a lot more of us, written by us in the world. And I think that's, it's not the end solution. It's just, it's progress.
Yeah. It's a baby step in the right direction.
And that's kind of what Blistered World is. It's just like, it is a blistered world out there. Like it's fucked up. It's hard to exist as a human being. It's even harder to exist as a person of color. It's hard to exist as like any kind of marginalized identity. Mm-hmm. I only know my experience as like a white trans woman, but like, it's rough out there. But the point is, you have to keep going, because who's going to do it for you? Mm-hmm. No one's going to do it for you. And if I don't tell my story and make my mark and make my presence known, then those bastards win. Yeah. Everybody who wants to just like stifle out our existence wins.
It's like the dichotomy of oppression, right? They continue to win in part because those who are there keeping down don't fight back. You know? So by putting yourself out there, by putting your art out there, that is part of your rebellion. That is part of you saying, like, I won't accept, this treatment, this handling, the way the world views, these things. It's more about like, hey, I am here. People like me are here, and you need to make way for us.
Yeah, I think, a pretty mundane way to describe it, a pretty like straightforward way to describe the song would be, it's a celebration of just getting by. Mm-hmm. It's a celebration that's enough.
Yeah, absolutely. I would agree. And I think, we tend to get down on ourselves a lot because, I didn't do this great big thing, or, I could have done this better. Sometimes just waking up every morning is a victory, you know, or whenever you wake up. It doesn't have to be the morning, I guess. But the fact that like you get up and you keep going on is powerful, and that is enough, especially when you exist in a world that isn't the most kind or fair to you.
Right. It's that song is also about just kind of recommitting to call out the best in yourself. Mm-hmm. And, that you're capable of better than where you've been and what you've been doing. So act like it.
Yes.
Kind of a recommitment to like why we started doing this in the first place, and like what it means to me now as a 32-year-old woman. Like, where, I started this project when I was 25, and I had different views on things, and I think that's good. I couldn't have made this record a few years ago. And so a song like Blistered World comes out of the need to like evaluate where you are right now, and mm-hmm. what you're doing to get in your own way, and how do you stop doing that? And, how do you just become the best version of yourself when things like local scene beefs and like street cred and your weight or whatever, like your appearance, like these things start to like matter more and less at the same time, and it's just about like becoming the best equipped version of yourself to mm-hmm. to deal with the world, and like what kind of person do you want to be remembered as? Like, these are the things I'm starting to ask myself now. It's like, what do I want people to think of when they think of me? Like, I want them to think that I'm someone who cares, like someone who like wants them to know that they're enough.
You started Plasma Canvas when you were 25, and you're 32 now. What would you say to 25-year-old Adrienne?
I don't know if, like, I don't know. I'm big into science fiction, so I don't know if I could mess with the time loop.
Right.
You know?
Right.
I think, you know, she needed to fall on her face a few times, and she did. And so, you know, there's definitely, like, you know, we all grow.
Right.
And, you know, I don't know. If I would have told myself, like, just wait, kid, big things are gonna happen, I feel like, you know, it would have gone way to my head. You know, I don't think I would have told her anything, but I think she tells me that I'm working on myself a lot more now, and that's a continuous effort, and I'm worth that effort.
Absolutely. Well, and I can tell too, like just in the progression of like, you know, speaking as your friend, like it's having a conversation with you 3 years ago and having a conversation with you now, incredibly, incredibly different in the most positive way possible, because you're more sure of yourself, you're more confident, you're much more able to elucidate your ideas and your thoughts and your feelings, and that's a wonderful thing to see just as a friend in kind of a selfish way. So kudos.
Thank you.
KILLERMAJESTIC came out in a really strange time because it hit in June of 2020 when the entire world was locked down. You weren't able to tour in support of that EP. What was the process like between then and now of kind of struggling through the pandemic, and how did that affect you?
Siri detected an error. You are trying to access a memory that has been deleted.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
You know, in truth, our world fell apart. It was the worst time of our entire lives, as it probably was with everyone. Mm-hmm. I don't think anybody was having a great time, but you know, it's you know, I can't say like, but it really sucked for us. But you know, just know that it absolutely sucked for us too. And I know that anybody listening to this show or anybody who's been to one of our shows or listened to our music, like they, you know, you don't listen to Plasma Canvas unless you're kind of going through it.
Sure.
You know,
yeah.
like, I mean, maybe some of you do, but like, geez, there's some depressing stuff in there. But, you know, it was rough. It was really rough. We had a tour lined up with Lagwagon and Less Than Jake. We were absolutely stoked. We were over the moon because that's kind of how it works, right? You know, you get one really cool tour like that, and it's pretty rare that it happens. And then you do that, and you take whatever money you can get from the guarantee. Like, you don't really care because you're there to make an impression. You're prepared to lose money. We didn't care at all. We were ready to climb on up. And, you know, that would be the start of the snowball, right? And, you know, from off the back of that tour, you either tour by yourself, off the notoriety you gain from that tour, or you find another tour that you can hop onto. Like, usually that's how things build. But, you know, obviously that fell apart, and none of that happened.
Right.
So what we did do was cry a lot. And
Same.
Yep.
Same.
Yeah, it... putting out, you know, I don't necessarily have disdain for KILLERMAJESTIC. It is what it is, and I'm proud of what it was able to do, despite what it is. But you know, all of the songs were honest on that record. But I remember consciously writing a couple of them, like, you know, well, people will like this, and the algorithms will too. And yep. And now we have a most played song that we don't play because we don't like playing it. We played it live once, and you know, in the last couple of years, and the people who were there didn't seem stoked in the crowd.
And which song was that?
We don't talk about it.
All right, fair enough. Fair enough.
But you know, I talked to one of my friends after the show, and they were like, "Yeah, it just kind of felt like you didn't want to play it," and we were like, "Yeah, we didn't," and they were like, "Well, that makes sense." So
yeah, the pandemic definitely screwed up a lot of things for a lot of people.
Well,
I think bands especially felt that particularly hard.
It was like, we wrote the record before the pandemic, obviously. We wrote it in like November 2019, but like, this record just, with these like skate punk tracks on it and like, stuff that would have found a home on Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2.
Right.
Like during a time when everyone's burying their friends and loved ones, that was pretty rough. That was a pretty rough sell. Nobody was really interested in that time. And
they didn't need to be reminded to be sad.
Yeah, I don't know. It was weird, like, because like there's like a really loud, crazy song at the beginning that's just about like, fuck you, we're Plasma Canvas. And then, the second song was intended to be a much slower song. It was just about like total suicidality. Third song was a love song. Fourth song, Redacted, and then the fifth song, it's I don't know. It's a good record. Like I think the songs are good. It's just I remember being aware of like trying to like do the most with it, and Dusk feels more honest. But whenever we were trying to like tell people about this record, I was just kind of regretting some things. Like I wish we could have just made a whole record right now, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
And
well, and it serves as a time capsule. And if I can throw my 2 cents in to sort of defend it to a degree.
I like it. Don't get me wrong.
KILLERMAJESTIC is an awesome EP. There's some great stuff on it, and I think it's a taste of your potential.
Right.
And as a fan, not setting my friend hat aside and putting my fan hat on, it's more like, man, this is so fucking good. I cannot wait to see like what the full realization of their potential is. And honestly, I feel like Dusk is certainly that. I have had Need stuck in my head for weeks. And, if you look at your Spotify stats, I'm guessing half of them are me.
Nice.
So, yeah, let's take a listen now to Need off of the album Dusk from Plasma Canvas, out February 17th via Side One Dummy Records. I am here with Adrienne Rae Ash. We'll be right back after this.
Coming out of stormy weather.
Welcome back to ColoRadio Spotlight. I am Chris. I am here with the lovely Adrienne Rae of Plasma Canvas. Their debut full-length album, Dusk, is out soon on Side One Dummy Records, and you can pre-order it now on sideonedummy.com. This being your first full album with Side One Dummy, I think that a lot of people make this assumption that when a band is signed to a label that their life just gets easy, that the label takes care of everything and you get played on the radio and you're making millions of dollars. And there's a lot of misconceptions out there about what being signed to a label means. So can you talk about how some of those, what some of those misconceptions are and kind of the reality of being an artist?
So I can only speak from my own experience. Working with a label is kind of, it's a different experience than doing things DIY. Like there are certain things that just happen differently. Mm-hmm. For instance, as a DIY artist, I could put out music whenever I wanted to. And I didn't have to wait around for the whole process to happen. For better or worse. 99% of the time, it was worse. But
there's no filter, right? It's completely just raw. It's here it is. I don't have to check with anybody. It's just boom.
Yeah, here are my feelings. I don't have an edit button. Here you go.
Yep.
I added some shitty recording to it. Everybody pay me money now.
Right.
Support starving artists. It's. I'm still DIY in a lot of ways, and I think that's kind of an important thing to remember is just because you're working with some people to do a thing to help your band, it's not necessarily that all your problems go away.
Right.
And you still have to do a ton of work. Basically, it works as like a loan, the label will pay for you to get your recordings tracked and the album pressed and stuff and the merch made. But you have to go out and sell it. And so that means you got to have a van. You got to have your own, you just pretty much have to, labels like working with artists who know how to help themselves, mm-hmm. and booking agents, same thing. Everybody likes to put gas into a car that they know runs.
Sure.
And so you pretty much get into working with labels and stuff like that because you're already kind of doing a lot of things on your own pretty well. And, there's a misconception that record label equals money.
Right.
And it's complicated because they pay for things to happen. We're really grateful that, they through Side One Dummy, we were allowed to record at the Blasting Room twice. That's something that a lot of bands around here aspire to do one time for a 2-song demo or something to be
Sure.
Hey mom, I did this. And I got to do that 2 times. I'm insanely grateful for that. They paid for that to happen and for me to be able to hold the copy of the vinyl record in my hands available at sideonedummy.com. Jeez. I'm worried that people will see my punk rock parody of that and think I'm 100% legit with that goofy joke. But working with a label is cool and it's just an experience that I'm grateful for. So, but at the same time, the days of the 70s where bands would get signed to a label and they'd get $1 gazillion and fly around on private jets, that's very, very far gone.
Right. Yeah.
These days, it's kind of like being an entrepreneur, without making loads of money.
Yeah. You still have to hustle just as hard, if not harder, but the rewards are much, much smaller in comparison.
Yeah. 0 people I know only play music. There's a very, very, very small number, and those are the people that I want to learn from, but a lot of people have misconceptions about what it means to work with a record label. And, I think it depends on the label. Warner Brothers is going to treat you differently than Epitaph is going to treat you differently than, any of the more indie labels, mm-hmm. Is going to treat you differently than the guy down the street who has, the stuff to distribute some copies of your cassette or whatever.
Right.
It's about the size of the label, the people involved, and the relationship, because it's everything's run by people.
You've got to find the right fit, right? The right people to work with, the right sort of feeling of how it's going to work, because it's got to work for you. Obviously, record labels are in business to make money, as all businesses are, and that's kind of one of their driving factors. But especially with some of these smaller labels, or the more kind of niche labels like Side One Dummy, like Anti, like Matador, obviously they want to make money, but they're also there because, they want to put out good music. Yeah. And you've got to have kind of a feeling out process to sort of determine, like, what are your end goals in this? Let's make sure we're kind of aligned.
Yeah. Yeah. And, yeah, you're right.
It's really cool that you were able to record at the blasting room. Thankfully, living in Fort Collins, we happen to be in a place where there's a world-renowned recording studio run by punk rock legend Bill Stevenson. What can you talk about what it's like to record with Bill and to record at the blasting room?
Yeah, honestly, I spent most of my time just rubbing my body on the walls, just trying to absorb even just a tiny little bit of the magic.
Yeah.
And then I remember that, there's maybe some not so great bands that have recorded there too. And I was like, well, geez, maybe I should just do my laundry and take a shower. No, it was great. It's always fun to work with Bill and Andrew. And Jason, everybody over there does a top-notch job. It's always felt like they really cared about what they were making with us, and they wanted it to be cool. And it was a great learning experience. Just because I've recorded in a lot of different settings. That's definitely the top most professional rig that I've recorded in. But I've done my own home recordings. I've gone to a guy's house where he renovated part of his house to be a studio and did it. But blasting room is on another level, because I think it's just when you get to that tier of professionalism, there's a certain standard, and they just the one thing I noticed about that studio. Was just where maybe somebody else would have used a plugin or used a shortcut of some kind to get something done,
some kind of artificial means.
Yeah, blasting room. They're smart about the way they do things, but they're always making sure every last detail of everything's right, and they make sure that they do it the right way and not the way that just saves time, because as much as they're about getting things done efficiently, they also want it to be done well and really good. And you don't get bands like Rise Against coming through there and recording amazing records by having no standards.
Right. Right.
Those records speak for themselves, and the amount of care that goes into the production is very apparent. And I'm fortunate to have been able to go there and do that and learn from them, because it's very, very cool to watch.
Yeah, I bet. Just the amount of names that have come through recording there. Obviously, Rise Against has done their last 5 albums there, and Less Than Jake's recorded there, NoFX has recorded there, and Plasma Canvas has recorded there. I've got to imagine, if I were you, that would be one of those things that I'm looking back when I'm in my 90s, going, yeah, I did that. That's pretty fucking cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not to just completely wax your car, but I mean, come on. It's fucking awesome. So you talked a little bit about beefs in the punk scene, and I don't want to get into the drama of it, but just in the time that you have spent on the Plasma Canvas project, how have you seen the punk scene in Colorado change?
Oh man. I don't know. And I think that's the point. And something I'm working on is considering everyone else's perspective. And I think that in order for me to like say what I think the scene has turned into or hasn't, I mean, I think there's a couple ways you could answer that, right? Like, well, it used to be like this and now it's like this, but that comes from me. Mm-hmm. You know, I think there's a lot more queerness, which is great, or maybe I just didn't know where all my people were. You know, which is why I hesitate to answer the question.
Sure.
It's because, like, you know, I've had people tell me that, like, you know, Plasma Canvas, like, sort of, like, created, like, carved its own niche and, like, made the queer punk scene here. Like, it wasn't really here. Like, there was a punk scene that, like, queers played in, but then, like, you know, Plasma Canvas fans came along and, like, became a meme, kind of.
Yeah.
You know, like, we're like,
Having been to many Plasma Canvas shows, I can absolutely attest to that.
Yeah. So, like, I like to think that we made our mark and made it a little bit gayer. You know, I honestly, these days, I don't really run with the loudest, gayest band in the world thing. Like, it kind of, you know, it still applies. It's forever going to apply. Mm-hmm. But, you know, we've had, like, a couple of different, like, mottos, you know, and I remember my favorite one has always been that we're a sparkly andro thunder punk band. But, you know, this record is, like, serious. So, like, jeez.
So, like, you don't have time for that stuff?
Yeah, just because we're loud and gay doesn't mean we got to be about that, okay? Like, I made art.
Because I'm
like
an artist.
Really, really sensitive and deep, and I'm like an artiste. That, but unironically. Right. Yeah, I want to be ironic there. So
you're entering David Lynch territory.
Yeah, I know.
I can't tell you what it means.
Yeah,
it just is.
Yeah. It's true. I don't know. It's, you know, Dusk is about, you know, at the core of it, Dusk is about, like, trying to be a better person and, like, you know, processing a lot of real feelings and, you know, trying to, like, have empathy for myself. And, you know, so it's been an exercise in demons. Mm-hmm. It's been an exercise of demons, but it was less a record that I wanted to make and one that I really, really needed to make in order to do whatever else I was going to do in my life. Like, that's how this record feels. It feels like my life's work. Like, it feels like the weight that I've been trying to put off of me. And you know, I think the next thing we do is going to be, like, probably more fun.
Well, yeah, it certainly feels like this album is kind of the getting the monkey off your back, the journey of self-care in order to go to whatever that next level is for you, not only as an artist, but personally. And that's really wonderful to see, just that progression, the fact that, like, you know, you were here, but now you're up here, and then who knows where you'll be tomorrow.
Right.
What's your favorite song on the album? Like, what are you most excited for people to hear?
Oh, man. Talk about pressure. Well, there's the 3 singles, you know, that we chose because they felt like they were really good entry points. And so I'm interested in seeing how it develops over time, where someone jumps into it. Because, like, the first one was Blistered World. Like, okay, I'm going to listen to more of this pop punk band, you know. And then there was Need that's like, okay, I'm going to listen to more of this emo shoegaze band. And then there was Election Year Relapse that was like, cool, I'm gonna listen to more of this, like, stoner grunge band. So I don't really know, like, it's a lot of my influences are hanging out on this record. Mm-hmm. And I'm stoked about that.
Well, and it's really cool because it shows just how multidimensional you are and the band is. You know, there's lots of different flavors even just within punk, and you don't have to be siloed off as one thing. You can do some shoegaze, you can do some art punk, you can do some dance punk, you can do whatever the hell you want. And there's lots, like you said, lots of different entry points for those different things. So it's kind of like, you know, if you're into punk music at all, it's like, hey, there's something for everyone here, which is really cool.
I have to say, from the part of me that really enjoys deep cuts, I will shout out my favorite deep cuts on this record. So Dusk, the title track, took me 10 years to write.
Wow.
And, it's because, like, I just, no, I don't want to spoil it. It took me 10 years to get it right. And I'm glad that I waited so long before committing it to something because it wasn't ready, and now it is. So definitely excited for the title track, the death afterwards, and then the piece that follows. Which is something that sounds really weird right now, but when you listen to the record, you'll get it.
It makes sense when you hear it.
Yeah, exactly. And then there's a song on this record. It's called Soft, and I wrote it for the love of my life, Nova, my partner. And the lyrics are pretty sparse, but it's harmonies the whole time. And I don't actually listen to The Cure that much, but I have an idea of what The Cure sounds like in my head. Mm-hmm. And that's what I was going for on that song. I've listened to a bunch of The Cure, but it wasn't just The Cure. It was just like, how can I tell a person how much I love them with music? And it's a song, that's not just like, a big love bomb, because that's what that would be, but it's about how much I love the mundane with this person, how much I love, as like everything everywhere all at once, but at laundry and dishes. Mm-hmm. Absolutely love that.
Well, there's beauty in that mundane, right? When you are with the right person and it just feels right. You could be doing your taxes, but you're doing it together, and it's a different type of experience.
It's a song about that, just gratitude for the present, and just, because up until that song, I had only written 2 kinds of love songs, and they were either, I've got a crush and I'm trying to impress you with this, or I can't get over this. Like, this is, it's tearing me apart. Sometimes they were the same song. But, this is the first time that I had written a song just about being grateful for where I am and the person that I'm with, who has helped me become a better person, and that I've done so much growing with, and just like the biggest show of love and gratitude and, warmth and safety for them. So that's, Dusk and Soft are my, my Adrienne Ash, like my 2 favorite songs on the record. And the rest are all pretty good too.
Like, the rest are all right, but those are my favorites. I mean,
those are the ones that are like, I don't know. There's a lot of them that, they're all close to my heart. Mm-hmm. But, there were definitely some that were really personal, really hard to write. Most of them, actually. Pretty much all of them, except for Soft. And, just there's a lot of pain there, but it's not all pain. Like, there is some beauty there, and being grateful for the beautiful moments with someone who understands you and keeps you safe, and that you keep safe. That quiet understanding of the things that you share. It's invaluable. Mm-hmm. I think that's the thing worth keeping in mind, is just how important it is to, in between all of the bleak and the nothingness and the heartache, to remember the beautiful little quiet moments with the people that we love.
I can't think of a better way to end it than with that. There's nothing I could say that would make that any better. Adrienne Rae Ash, it has been wonderful having you on ColoRadio. Where can people find you?
We're on all the socials, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, just at Plasma Canvas. Got Plasma Canvas at bandcamp.com for, the things.
Yep.
And, just we're on all the streaming services. Dusk is out everywhere. We got a couple shows coming up this Friday, February 17th at 7 Circle Music Collective, the 18th at Vultures in Colorado Springs, and March 4th at the Aggie Theater here in Fort Collins, which will be our big old record release party.
That is going to be so much fun to be at. And I believe there's a code, is it DUSK13 to save on fees for that as well?
Yep.
Awesome. So Dusk is out on Side 1 Dummy Records. You can pre-order the LP, double LP, which is pretty rad, at side1dummy.com. And you can find links to the shows and all things Plasma Canvas at linktree.com/Plasma Canvas. Adrienne, thank you so much for being with us. And thank you so much for making Dusk. I cannot wait for other people to hear it. It's really fantastic.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
This has been a listener-supported production of Loudspeaker Studios. For more on this and other programs, visit loudspeaker.org.